Thank you for joining us. This is Paul Wilson.
And Chris Emke.
And you're listening to the Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, we got a huge show today.
I'm super pumped.
So excited.
So pumped.
Lavon Miller, I'm sure you guys all saw his name in the title. We're going to be talking about ODSS.
Yep. World-breaking pass.
World
record pass.
World record pass. The level of competition, how it's evolved. Also, we hit Lavon with some questions we know everybody is asking, like, is he going to compete in ODSS and UCC this year?
Yeah.
Or UCC at all this year?
Stop talking about it. We'll wait to the end of this so then the listeners can listen for themselves, right? But a lot of awesome information. I'm always excited when we get Lavon on. He's a ball of energy. He's super enthusiastic. He's extremely passionate about the industry and the sport.
Yeah.
And that really shows when you ask him a question. You know, you can't stump him. And he's right there with the best info possible. So, no, it's awesome.
Absolutely. And, of course, another segment I'm really excited for. We have another great pro tip from our super tech, Jeremy Garnett. Chris, this week, as always, has been very busy over at Duramax Tuner. I know I have been working on getting ready for a new 6.7-liter Power Stroke project.
Yep.
What have you been up to?
You know, just we've been talking about it in a couple of the prior podcasts, but that was the March Madness sale that we have over at Calibrated Power Duramax Tuner. So 15% off EasyLink tuning, 15% off EFI Live tuning, and then we're doing 15% off L5P tunes. And we have our new Switch on the Fly L5P product released. So my time is being heavily consumed with emails, phone calls, quoting, stuff like that. So, you know, right now, March is kind of like that pivotal point where January and February are somewhat slower months. It's an industry standard.
Yeah.
Now here we are, tax season, March, coming into spring. Guys want to set their trucks up. They want to finish the final touches on their builds going into the new year, whether it's street truck, drag truck, sled pull, what have you.
Yeah.
There's also, I think, a lot of anticipation going into this year with a lot of events that didn't happen last year with 2020 with all the COVID stuff. So guys are like extra pumped. So just there's not enough hours in the day. I hate to say it, but there's just not. I was very lucky to be able to take the time to head up to the shop so we could do this.
You're not lying. You're not lying. Well, hey, listeners, we're not going to waste any more of your time. Let's jump right into our discussion with Lavon Miller from Firepunk Diesel. Lavon Miller, how the hell are you?
We're doing pretty good. How you guys doing?
You know, another day in paradise. It's starting to warm up a little bit. How's the weather out by you guys in Ohio?
Well, the sun's shining, so we got that going for us. It's, I think, high 40s today, but it's supposed to go to 55 tomorrow.
There you go. I think being, Midwest residents, right? That's a win for this time of the year.
That's it, man. Might as well be summer.
Right.
Lavon, obviously a superstar within Diesel Performance. We've had you on the show several times. Just in case we got any new listeners out there, can you tell us a little bit about some of the competitions you've participated in Diesel Performance?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, my first main competition that we did any good at was Diesel Power Challenge in 2014. Won that 2014, 2015. Then went on to win the Ultimate Callout Challenge in 16, 17, and 18, and a lot of ODSS drag racing competitions, and local dirt drags, sled pulls, all of the above. We've played in the game.
And not only have you competed and won these events, but you also have your hands in other trucks that are competitors in some of these things throughout those years as well.
Yes, for sure. That's a lot what makes Team Firepunk a team, is because most of the employees have their own trucks and like to do their racing, anything from the ET class to 770, 670, 590. When race weekend hits, it really everybody wants to go racing.
That's awesome. And, you've built a business model that is a very strong presence in the diesel industry. And to have employees that, years into this, they live, they breathe, they want, this is their true passion. There's not a lot of companies in this industry or in this space that can say that.
Yeah, if you have the passion for it, it really shows in the work that you do, because working on a customer's truck and you love what you're doing, you're going to treat that truck like it's your own and make sure you have the customer's best interest in mind. So that's kind of the goal behind the whole vision of it. Make sure that we're out at the races supporting those who are supporting us, and be there and be a presence in the industry.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good outlook.
Absolutely. And Lavon, I feel like we end up talking to you on the show here every time you guys set a record or like crush another record that we thought wouldn't be crushed, or right after you guys have won another major competition. 399, everybody in diesel performance is talking about a 399 eighth mile pass in a truck. Just a few years ago, nobody thought we were going to be breaking the fours. Nobody thought we were going to be getting to here. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the past years were like racing, and how did you build yourself up to this point where now it's just crushing what we thought you were capable of?
It is amazing. I mean, it's a monumental step in diesel performance. I mean, you look at everybody that's been racing for so long, even the dragsters, and it takes huge steps and changes to start knocking the tents off once you start going this fast. But going from the four-wheel drive when we hit fours for the first time, that was a monumental step for us, and that's something we wanted more than anything else. But then you start realizing like you're kind of at a barrier, because when you're 4,400 pounds, there's only so much you can do. But we've learned so much in getting the engine platform strong, getting the transmission platform strong. We're learning as we go on chassis and racing. We grew up not knowing much about race cars, but we've learned a lot as we went. And we start learning how important weight is. So you start you spend your money in building a lighter weight chassis, and less weight, more horsepower. That's the recipe. And then having the ability to control all of that is what gives us the ability to go fast.
So in the years of you guys having the four-wheel drive regular cab, right? You had, I remember Shides a few years ago. You were there, and I remember you had the staging lane ready to go, and you launched the truck and you split the block in half, right? So when you say you've learned throughout your testing, right, all these years, what were some of the weak links that you saw in regards to like the factory Cummins block to where you're at now, and what was some of the advancements that you made in the transmission from then till now?
A lot of changes, honestly, and a lot of it is also how we race it. So if you look back a couple years ago, you saw triple turbos and a lot more smoke. We were running fuel only, a lot less, very little nitrous, if any. And we were able to make the horsepower, but our exhaust cast temperatures were higher. So when your piston crown temperature is higher, your ring tension goes away, your valve seats tend to move around more, your valves tend to tool up. You start realizing how much the heat in itself will cost you engine parts long term. And so now when we race, we're racing with a single turbo and 3 extra stages of nitrous, to where we're keeping our air-fuel ratio really lean, all the way 21 to 26 air-fuel ratio, and that we can maintain our exhaust gas temperatures, which puts less heat in the cylinder. Your rings last longer, your valves last longer, your drive pressure to your turbo's lower because your heat's lower. Everything lasts longer, and that's just learning from experience, figuring out what works and what doesn't. As far as the long block goes, the factory cast Cummins block, D&J Precision always builds our engines, the Enforcer series, and that has really been a solid platform. But when you make 2,500 horsepower and you put a couple hundred passes on it, that block actually is moving around. There's not enough material down in the main webbing area, and that's when eventually we split the block. We were making a lot of torque back then.
Okay.
So that's just things that we've learned and involved. Now we have a billet aluminum block with a steel bed plate, 6 main bolts per main, total of 1 million pounds of clamping force holding the crank in the bottom. You can go down the track and feel confident that the crank's going to stay where it's supposed to be.
So the motor that's in the truck this year is the same motor, but it's been refreshed from what was in the truck last year. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. Last year was the first year for what we call the Executioner, which is all billet aluminum. That was something that he drew up when we first split the block back in 2018. And that block, we ran 19 passes on the engine dyno last spring before the race season, made a peak of 3,214 horsepower, and then we put it in the race truck and went 99 passes last summer, and when we pulled it out last fall. Like the bearings and the crank, the bottom end looked absolutely mint. So we built a new head this winter with a top feed injector because we had some problems with the all aluminum head and block growing. Like it would grow a total of 18 thousandths and 200 degree of temperature change. Ooh. So what we would have problems with our feed tube sealing up to the injectors correctly. If we were on the staging limiter too long at the line, by top of third gear, you'd be losing rail pressure and your mile an hour would drop 5 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's another one of those that this isn't, there's not like a long history of guys to go back and look at who have also been doing this. A lot of this stuff has been cutting edge.
Yeah.
For somebody who's just fresh off the boat, they've attended 2 races and they want to go out this year. They have no idea what we mean when we're talking about a billet block. This is a solid block that then is machined down. What's the advantage of doing that, Lavon?
Well, the advantage, then you can machine. I mean, we're not machining out all the extra material what a street block would have for all the water passages. That the water passages are needed for cooling. That way, you can tow your camper across the mountain without melting your pistons. Well, obviously, we're starting these trucks, doing a burnout, and letting it rip down the drag strip, and then putting it back in the pits and cooling them down for 45 minutes before our next run. So we can leave all that water passage area, leave that solid material, and give a lot more strength to support our main bearings and our cylinders and the main webbing on the bottom around the cam as well.
And that's generally what is attesting to or contributing to the fact that you guys had 19 dyno runs, 99 passes, so 118 pulls on that motor, and little to no wear took place, where the engine that was in the drag truck from 2018 only had a couple passes and it split the block.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean when we split the block, that was not a virgin block. It was a block that had been in the quad cab. I had gone through Diesel Power Challenge, and I had put a lot of stress load through it.
Okay.
But then you tear the thing down in the wintertime, and you put fresh bearings in it, new pistons, rings, freshen it all back up, and then you go back and make a couple licks on it, and it splits the block.
Right.
There's no way of knowing where the fatigue level is on a block unless you can see a visible crack. So that's the tough part about it is when you build one of those cast blocks, you don't really know where the limiting factor is.
And I mean, for a guy making 1,000 horsepower, 1,200 horsepower, that's pretty much the new era of street truck, if you will. That's really not an issue, but when we're talking 2,500 horsepower, 3,000 horsepower at the top tier level, which you compete at right now, I mean, that's everything. That's reliability. That's what's going to make that pass or not make that pass.
Right. And it's pretty cool. Like you watch a lot of the alcohol engines and all the blower cars, they're doing a lot of maintenance on these cars over a season of racing. They've got to tear it down. They got to put rods in it every so often because they're making 4,500, 5,000 horsepower, and they got to put rods in it every 5 to 10 passes, depending how many RPMs they turn. So our goal is to be able to, if we can take an engine like this, put it together and run it for the summer. It's expensive to build, but in the long grand scheme of things, it's really not. It's not that bad when you can get a whole race season out of it without tearing it down.
Yeah. So
I love the logic of diesel performance. We're like this too, Lavon, 100%. We found people who spend more money on this sport. So we're doing good. We're saving money. That's what I would tell my wife. I'm literally saving you $10,000 by not going to buy an alcohol car, right? I'm saving you money.
There's us, and then there's tractor pullers. So you go. We're still in the peasant realm when it comes to spending money compared to
I only have one engine in my vehicle. I saved you money. Yeah. I love it. I'm there.
Definitely. Walk us through a little bit here, Lavon. I like how as we are talking about the goals that are set, you mentioned a team, Firepunk team. What was the preparation to, last week when you guys ran that 399 pass? Was the truck together for very long prior to that, or was this like a last-minute scramble with the team to get it together? What does that background look like? What's preparation for something like this?
Well, in true Firepunk fashion, we went and picked up the engine from D&J Tuesday before we were leaving that weekend. So I picked up the engine, got back to the shop, 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening, and the following Tuesday night we were on the track in Georgia, and the following Wednesday we ran that 399 pass. So it's always, we pretty much went to No Mercy, which was the same radial tire race in the fall last October, and we raced it, and we came back from No Mercy last October, pulled the engine out, took it up to D&J, and at that point he started drawing the design for the new head. And the problem with doing this custom one-off stuff, it's really stuff that Drew himself has to do, and he has to do it evenings and weekends because his machines are working on making your day-to-day parts for all the guys that are, getting engines from D&J currently. So it's kind of a slower process for him to do some of this custom one-off stuff. And we had our date set to go to Lights Out this spring, and he got us the engine about 6 days before that, so we could put the motor in, have the thing running by Friday night, and headed out for Georgia Monday morning.
So when I always talk to guys and we talk about building trucks, right, we talk about camps, right? Like, oh, well, we work with this fuel system company and this engine company, and this is who does the tuning and these parts, blah, 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 blah. You guys, a week prior to setting a new world record, you had no motor. So you get a motor, you get a new head that's a fresh one-off design, and then I would assume, since you said prior that this was a top feed injector, you had to get new one-off injectors. Is that correct?
Yep, this is something that we work with Extra G Performance for all our fuel system and Bosch Motorsport standalone ECU stuff. They had built a set of top feed injectors based off of a Duramax LLY platform. And Drew had done a top feed injector set up on a sled puller back, I believe, in 2012. So okay. He had some parts and components around already back then, some designs that he knew worked, and that was kind of like the easy button for him. He said, let's just kind of follow that same recipe. XRG built the injectors. We sent it down. We had to bend new fuel lines and make sure everything works. But when you have a good team that's got their head together and knows what's going on, you can have 3 different shops working from, a couple hours apart from each other, and all the parts show up at one place and a truck runs shortly after.
And then a world record a couple days after
right.
that, You talk about this like it's just no big deal. Like I'm just mind blown.
I'm going back to every reader ride that we did, every listener interview we did, and they talked about how long their build was. Chris, I remember a great quote from you about, like, anytime you're working on a build, take your budget and your time frame, double it, and then be ready to go past that.
We always say the last 10% of the project takes 90% of the time.
And the money. And the money.
But we've seen this from you guys. This is the crew that tore down
axles,
and rebuilt the truck overnight,
UCC,
right?
Yeah.
So going
Motors.
399.
Well, that's the thing. If you have that motivation and passion behind you, and you're going to do it, there's nothing that's going to stop you. You're going to work through the night. You're going to go after. You're going to find a way instead of finding an excuse of not to. So there's plenty of times that, like if you watch our YouTube channel, we try to document as much of that stuff that we can, and just show guys how, like, man, we're real people and we run into real problems, and it's not easy. Like we kicked the tire 6 times on Tuesday before we got the thing to go down the track Tuesday evening. We finally went a 410 and 410 at 182 and made some adjustments, and first pass out Wednesday morning goes 399.8.
That's so wild.
Now, what was the record prior to the 410 or the 399? What was the standing number one spot?
We had the fastest diesel was set by Jared Jones in the Shide Rail at PDRA event last fall. It was the weekend after. We had set the door car record with a 411 at 181 at No Mercy last year, which that was still a standing record for the door car. But for the fastest diesel, Jared Jones had gone a 40. I think he went a 408, then a 406, and then a 404 that weekend. And we just knew he was going to get to the threes. And that's, I think, where they left off. And so we knew that our days were numbered if we wanted to be the first diesel to get to the threes. Because there's some couple other camps that are right there and coming after it hard.
So,
absolutely.
Well, you're sitting here in a truck. I mean, granted, it's not like a normal truck, right? It's a drag truck, and it's all set up for this. But you're running numbers against a dragster. That's
full on rail.
It is. I mean, really, for us, it was a big work of art for us to do that, because we have to, on radial tires, we actually had to add a good bit of weight to the nose to basically, without running a wheelie bar, you add the power and ramp it in quickly, it wants to flip over backwards. So we had a total of 70 pounds of ballast hanging on the weight, and we were 3,095 pounds race weight going across the scales after our 399 pass.
Oh, my God.
And I think what's crazy with this whole thing is granted, we're in the year 2021, okay, and you set a world record, but you guys have been in preparation for this, I would have to say, from the first Diesel Power Challenge in 2014. You know, if you really think about it, or 2015 when you first competed, you know, it's just been data collection year over year, changing it up, because you've gone from 4-door long beds to, you know, a regular cab 4-wheel drive to this 2-wheel drive S10. Like, you've evolved along the way to get to where you're at now, which is crazy.
Right. And then you go to an event down there, and you go in the staging lanes, and you think you got this really lightweight, you know, everything low S10, and it stands like head and shoulder above every pro mod in the staging lanes with you. Right. And you're like, man, I need another $125,000.
Welcome to drag racing, right? That's what it is, though, because that was one of the other things I wanted to ask is, do you think your record will be beat this season? There's 8 scheduled events for ODSS this year. So actually, next week, guys, we're going to have Greg Jolly on from ODSS to tell us all about what this year's ODSS looks like. But
well, it's I don't know. I mean, you asked me that question. It's definitely a possibility. Like I said, the Shide Rail won a 404, and they're a couple 100 pounds lighter than us. I think they're still in the 26 or 2,700 pound range. But the Waggler Rail, they went a 101 60-foot, so they already got that 60-foot dialed in. Pretty much all they need to do is add some horsepower, and that rail is going to be a contender, because I think they went a 423 last fall. Okay. So I know there's a couple. Both of the rails that are out are going to be fast. Michael Cordova is putting a rail together. I think Zach Hamilton is putting a rail together. So there's going to be a couple other really fast rails. Ben Shaddy and his Corvette is in a Pro Mod. Johnny Gilbert is putting a Pro Mod Corvette together. There's some serious heavy hitters coming out that I think are going to be able to, you know, come after it and give us a run for the money.
That's awesome. I'm so excited for this year and for getting back to live action. UCC is coming up, and there's a big announcement that we just saw from UCC. Can you tell us a little bit about the Firepunk ODSS event now being hosted at Ultimate Callout Challenge?
Yeah, well, that was kind of a dream that we kind of created over this winter. We were talking about, you know, planning our event, and around all of COVID that we dealt with last year and having to cancel, we were looking at going to UCC. UCC had got moved back to May 23rd weekend, and then our event was 2 weeks after that, and 2 weeks after that was Holly Rock. And being that Ohio still hasn't lifted all of their restrictions, it goes you really hard to start spending all this money and planning an event that you don't know for sure you want to have, because you don't want people, you know, booking hotel events and hotels and all this stuff, planning a trip when you don't know if you're going to have to cancel on them last minute. So we kind of had this vision that, like, man, if we could actually team up and put a full ODSS race and move our Outlaw Diesel Revenge in with UCC, it would give all the fans that come out to watch UCC, it would give them more action between the UCC trucks. So when they're sitting in the stands watching the UCC trucks dynoing, they're watching ODSS drag racing in between. It's an action-packed weekend. It gives everybody the chance to see the best the diesel industry has to offer in the racing world. UCC, sled pulling, dynoing, show and shine, vendor row. I mean, it'll be a Mayday.
I'm so excited, man. This is going to be so cool. Now, we've had like an ODSS, like quick 8 kind of exhibition runs and things like that at UCC in the past, but we've never had like a full-on sanctioned race. This brings up all sorts of questions off the top of my head. One, how does that schedule? Because traditionally they do. You drag race the first day, you dyno the second, you sled pull the third. When does the ODSS race come in?
We're going to, I think it'll work out well. We haven't nailed down the exact hours and minutes of the weekend, but kind of tentatively, the track's going to be live for all the UCC competition from noon till probably 6 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Then in the evening from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., then we're probably going to do ODSS Pro qualifying. So the 590 trucks, the Pro Street, Pro Mod, and Top Dragsters are going to make 2 rounds of qualifying Friday evening, and they may do even a round of UCC trucks in between those. We haven't quite decided exactly what else is going to be in the Friday night show. And then rolling into Saturday, all the UCC trucks are going to be dynoing while ODSS runs their full race schedule. You have the ET trucks, 770 trucks, 670, 590, Pro Street, Pro Mod, Top Dragster. So that'll give everybody an opportunity. If you're going to UCC just to watch some awesome diesel action, and you've never been on a drag strip and you want to race on one of the best drag strips and most popular drag strips, come to Indy and come find the Firepunk boys. We'll give you a crash down on the lights and how it works, and we'll show you how to buy a tech card, and we're going to put you on the starting line, and you have your first racing experience there at UCC, and it'll be something that will be a day to remember.
No, that's cool. I think that's also sparking a lot of interest for the new generation of diesel racers, right? That's everything.
What a freaking cool story somebody's going to be able to get to tell about being able to take their first pass at UCC in front of the crowd with the lights, get the rundown from the Lavon crew. Like, that is going to make somebody's dream come true. I can't wait to be at UCC and to be able to see this, because I kind of had assumed when I heard about this that it would just be the top dogs, just the fastest trucks, and that's all we were going to be able to get to see. But you're saying the full ODSS event, we're actually going to get to see these guys bracket racing and coming out and running for their very first time. I just can't even imagine how exciting that is.
Right. It gives everybody the opportunity to be part of the show. I'll go back and say the story of when I first went. My first diesel event I ever went to was IRP 2005. That was when the Lucas Raceway drag strip was IRP, and I went out there. It was a DHRAA event. I had no intention of racing. I just put my first built transmission in my 2001. I mean, I was stoked. Like, I was excited to go out there with my buddies and watch some awesome diesel trucks. When we get out there, there's hundreds of trucks everywhere. I'm like in love with everything. And one of my buddies is like, "Man, you should race your truck." And I'm like, "Man, I don't know what I'm doing." And he talked me into it. I bought a tech card. I actually ran back to the hotel and got some jeans because I wasn't allowed to race in shorts. And I put my truck on the track. I mean, I remember taking the light for the first time. My foot was shaking like a leaf. And I ran a 14.4 in the quarter mile. And let me tell you, that was like the most fun I ever had. And I have been drag racing. That was the first pass I ever took at the drag strip, and I was hooked on racing ever since.
Super cool.
14.4 and loving it. It does. You know, it's funny you bring that up, because I remember also the first time I went down a track, it was a horrid time. But, like, I got done with the end of the track, and I'm, woo! Like you feel that adrenaline rush, and you're so excited. But now you're running sub 4s. What does that feel like? Do you still get excited and passionate and adrenaline rushing at the end of the track? Or are you dialed in and reserved, and this is like a science and this is what you do, and you just map it out and you get the result you expect?
No, when racing's in your blood, anytime you line up, your adrenaline's pumping. And Larson is my brother Larson is the one driving the S10, so he gets the one to feel the G-force. But I can promise you, I was the one that driving the Pro Street truck, and when I put my helmet on, it was game face. You didn't let your emotions get to you. You had to, bang the tree and all that stuff. And I guarantee you, I get more nervous and have more adrenaline just standing behind the truck, knowing what the tune-up is, what it's supposed to do, is it going to work? I don't know. It's just being a part of the team it really works for you when you've got a need for speed.
That's awesome.
That's great. And that's a great segue, too, because I kind of wanted to talk to you about ODSS competitors and UCC competitors. Traditionally, there's been some overlap. Do you expect that this year? Do you expect guys are going to have to drag race and compete for UCC and then flip over and also use their truck for an ODSS race?
Yes, obviously that's going to be entirely up to them if they want to do that. That's how it's always been laid out, that if with the ODSS Quick 8 shootout, they didn't have that as a points race, but this being a points race, so say if some of the UCC competitors are planning on running ODSS 590, they're going to be able to, dial their trucks back and put their truck in 590 on Friday night and compete before they go to the dyno. So it'll just add a dimension to the UCC competitors that when they're racing that day, make sure they build a rig that can go a couple extra rounds, because you got 2 more qualifying rounds on Saturday night, or on Friday night. And then we'll obviously have to be flexible during eliminations during the day, because they have to allow about an hour's window there for them to get their dyno in during the day. But they can work that in. We'll be flexible.
I love Lavon's take on it. It's like, just build a rig that can last. I don't know what your guys' problem is. Like, it's look at I've done it for how many years
right?
now.
Like, it's not hard. Just do it.
Just do it. I like that. Now, what about you? You dipped out on us and stepped back from UCC 2 years ago, if I remember correctly.
Nope. Yes. 2019 was the first year we didn't compete.
Are we going to see let's start here. Are we going to see a Firepunk entry into Ultimate Callout Challenge in 2021?
2021, no. We are actually doing helping out a few customers. Right now, Justin Ziegler from Ziegler Diesel Performance, his truck is at our shop. We're fabricating a ginormous compound turbo setup on it that's going to be big. That should play ball at UCC at least. He's excited about it, and we're excited to be a part of it with him. But with everything we have going on with hosting the events, hosting the race, and running the pro mod and running the business, we figure it's probably best for us to just focus on all the fires we have going currently, rather than throwing another thing in the mix. So we're going to support our customers that are entering and playing in it. We've got quite a few customers that have our transmissions, and it takes a good bit of support. So we want to be there for our customers. And when we compete in an event like that, it makes it really hard to be able to have enough time for us and them.
I love that. Putting the customers first, man. Lavon, this has been so much fun. I'm so grateful that you took some time out to talk to our listeners. I know I'm pumped about UCC. I'm pumped about the ODSS event at UCC. If our listeners want to jump on and follow you and learn more from you and see more about Firepunk Diesel, where should they go?
You can definitely jump on our YouTube channel. Firepunk Diesel is our YouTube channel. We kind of document all of our day-to-day activities and racing. And so if you want to see some of the fun parts of what we do here at Firepunk, watch the YouTube channel. If you want to connect with me, go on Facebook. You can look me up, Lavon D. Miller, on my Facebook, and hit me up on Messenger. On Instagram as well. I don't do as good as keeping up with messages on Instagram, because they always end up in my message requests that I have to keep remembering to go look for. But that, or you can email me, Lavon@firepunk.com. So hopefully anybody who wants to connect with us, we've given them an avenue to connect with us. And our website is up, shop.firepunk.com. We've got a bunch of new apparel, First of the Threes t-shirts. So if anybody's interested or excited about something like that,
there you go.
We'd be glad to support anybody that supports us.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to my whole team. It's really the guys back here working are just as important as the guys that go along the racetrack, because it takes everybody to keep it going. There's got to be guys here still answering the phone and building transmissions while we're out racing. So Team Firepunk, that's who I want to shout out to.
I appreciate you for taking the time, man. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely. Listeners, stick around.
No problem. It was good chatting with you guys.
Listeners, make sure you stick around. Coming up next, we got Super Tech Jeremy Garnett giving us another awesome pro tip from in the shop. Jeremy, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Jeremy, I love that this segment is it feel like it's getting better and better, where we get to talk about cooler and cooler topics. Guys, I know in the last 3 weeks we had 2 cold weather topics with our Super Tech, Jeremy Garnett. But this week I think we got something really unique for you guys. Jeremy, lay it on me. What truck are we talking about today?
We got to do a cam job on a 6-liter Vortec.
That is my attempt at a sound effect. So that does not fit our model.
Now it's a little different than something that we normally do here.
Now, guys, we know out there as shop techs and you may work on your own truck, and man, you're always going to find that one buddy, or you're always going to find that one customer that comes in that's like, I love you guys. I want you to work on my truck, but it's not really what you work on.
That's exactly the case in this.
So tell me a little bit about the truck. What year is it?
I was in 08. 08 1500 max with the 6-liter in it with the DOD in it. So the displacement on the man.
Yeah.
The displacement on the man started taking a crap like every other 6-liter.
No.
So, yeah, the guy decided he wanted to go a different route. And so time was pull the heads, pull the cam, and get into it.
That's it, man. What a job. So tell me a little bit about that job, because that's obviously way outside of my wheelhouse.
A little bit about it is, with the lifters getting stuck with the DOD, we had to go ahead and we had to remove the heads to remove the lifters. And
right.
Then inspect, and if you're changing the lifters at that point and not replacing them with stock, you have to replace the cam with upgraded lifters. So now we had to replace the cam, so we were replacing the lifters, and then we had to put it all back together.
I don't know enough about gas cam and lifter selection to talk more about the details about like what size cam and how do you match it with the right lifters. I believe we had another guy in the shop who has a little bit more experience with specifically 6 liters, but kind of made some recommendations.
Yeah, he's
there.
an LS guy, so
yeah,
that's with all of his superchargers and stuff like that. He and the customer got together and got a good combo, and then we got Nick in as well, and Nick tuned it.
I was going to bring this up. So I ran into Nick in the midst of tuning this truck, and I saw him sitting in it, and I heard it running across the shop, and I walked over and I was like, bro, there hasn't been a truck in this shop with a lobe tune in like a decade. Right. Like you would never have a vehicle in this truck shop with it does not sound like diesel. I'm like walking around. I'm like, this is clearly a gasser with a cam. Yeah. And I see him sitting there. I'm like, yo, what's up? And he's like, just getting back to my roots. And I'm like, oh my God, I forgot that you started off tuning LS gas. Yeah. Like that was his thing.
Yeah, back in the day, that's what he used to do.
Oh, not. It's not the same.
No,
Can I just say it's not the same?
It took him a couple of days to dial it in, but
yeah,
trucks, it's fun. It was a fun truck when it left.
Yeah. What is our pro tip for this week if we do have somebody running into this job?
Blow out the head bolt holes before you install the head. That way you don't have to pull the head back off to do it.
What do you mean by that? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, coolant, debris, just make sure you blow out the head bolt holes before you actually put the head on the truck.
Oh man, that's such an easy one to miss. What a good tip.
Oh yeah,
Well, Jeremy, I'm excited to have you back next week. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, have a good day.
The XDP Extra Cool High Performance Coolant Additive enhances the performance of the cooling system in your vehicle. This coolant additive has been specially formulated to maximize the thermal transfer properties of your engine coolant to lower your temperatures. Not only does the Extra Cool additive reduce engine coolant temps, the premium additives in this formula prevent buildup and corrosion to extend the life of your cooling system and cooling system components. XDP Extra Cool Coolant Additive is safe for use in all cooling systems and is compatible with all types of coolant. To find out more about the XDP Extra Cool High Performance Coolant Additive, check out xdp.com or find a local dealer near you.
Worley Custom Fabrication is known for their world-class powder coating, S300, S400, traction bars, and all sorts of other just really, really cool parts for your Duramax, Cummins, and I think even a few Power Stroke parts here and there. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2020 GMC 2500 and 3500 Fender Flare Billet Marker Light Delete Kit. So these brand new L5Ps have the marker lights, and a lot of guys don't like them. Just flat out, just a lot of guys are not into that look. What they would prefer to have is a color matched billet piece right there to delete that light kit and have it just look a little bit cleaner on the truck, a little bit less flashy. So it's kind of a really cool understated exterior piece. And I think it's one of those that it's pretty easy to scan over, but once you see it, you're like, oh, I get it and I love it. So these will help you clean up the look of your 2020 GMC Sierra or Denali HD truck by replacing the amber fender flare marker lights with these CAD designed, CNC machined, billet aluminum marker light delete plates from WC Fab. Available with machined WC Fab logo or without, in raw aluminum, or of course, what you're all going to choose, paint matching of fine texture or fine texture black powder coat to blend into the OEM black plastic fender flare trim. It installs very, very easily. It's a couple of simple hand tools, comes with everything that you guys are going to need to install it. If you are thinking about it, or if you have one and you'd like to clean up the look a little bit, no problem at all. Jump over to wcfab.com and you'll be able to find that part right away. The other sponsor I wanted to talk about today is Exergy Performance. With their background in OE development and manufacturing, Exergy Performance brings a unique perspective to the high performance world. They know what features and specifications need to be to ensure proper function. They know how to produce them, and they know how to verify that they're correct. The verification process and the equipment that they use is very untypical of a standard diesel repair shop. It actually allows them to look at many more system performance characteristics beyond just the average fuel output, which is how most shops will just test it. What they test is actually from idle to full power using factory calibration points and a few points of their own that they've added for the high performance market. They can fully map a set of injectors and have done so for, I don't know, a countless number of people out there. The guys who are running at the very top of the industry are running Exergy. The guys who are running their normal street truck are running Exergy. Every one of our employees who has a modified set of injectors is running Exergy. There's a reason that we use them time and time again. If you guys are looking for more, you can check out Exergy's website, but you're probably best off giving a call over to DuramaxTuner.com, giving a call over to WC Fab, giving a call over to any of their distributors who are out there. Also, if you need technical assistance and you've bought from a distributor, I believe you could still reach out to Exergy if you need to. Chris, what an amazing show today.
I think, it's crazy to me how the first time out, the first outing with their truck in 2021, they break a world record, which a week prior, the truck wasn't even together.
Of course.
It's just insane to me, the level of passion and intensity that Team Firepunk bring to every race. And it shows in their day-to-day organization at the shop. It shows when you see their pit crew at the races. It's crazy to see, and super humbling too. Lavon's very down to earth.
Absolutely. So. And hey guys, a big shout out to all of our sponsors. That's XDP, WC Fab, and of course Exergy Performance, along with Calibrated Power and Duramax Tuner. They're what make this show possible. Of course, Jeremy Garnett, our super tech, and all the guys who help us out with the knowledge base segment. Again, thanks to all the guys who help us create the show. Listeners, next few weeks here, we got a lot of big shows coming up. So make sure you subscribe, and please leave us a 5-star review.
Please.
And an actual review on iTunes. That really helps.
Yeah, and comment on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
If you guys want content and you're like, there's something that you haven't heard, or maybe, you think maybe we haven't done an episode and we have, our listeners are really good with, hey, this has already been done, check back, blah, 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 blah.
That's right.
Help us out. Paul and I are just two people getting on a mic, talking about diesels, and a lot of the topics and the interviews that we do are in a brainstorming session, right? So anything you guys want to listen to, please get on the podcast Facebook page, send us a message, comment on our page, whatever we need to do. We'll be glad to listen to you guys.
Absolutely. For today, this has been Paul Wilson
and Chris Hemke.
Thanks for listening.
The last 10% of the project takes 90% of the time.
And the money. And the money.
That's it.